Today on Kicks Chronicles, we talk life and kicks with sneaker designer Stephanie Howard. Known for her contributions at brands like Nike, Reebok, and probably most notably at New Balance, where she designed the 850. So yeah, we talk design and we also talk about the kicks she loved growing up and bring all the way to the modern day to her current collection. We also discuss Endstate, her new sneaker company, and what kicks she would take with her if she was stranded on a desert island. This is Kicks Chronicles. Yes, people, Big PROZECH back again, and you already know what it is, man. Episode 59 of your sneaker and lifestyle podcast, Kicks Chronicles. I'm your boy PROZECH. Welcome. Thank you very much for joining us. And thank you to everyone that watched our previous episode that came out a couple of weeks ago. Really appreciate it. Obviously, that is available on all digital platforms, and a lot of you are probably going to have noticed that we've been a lot more active in terms of our uploads regarding short form content for each episode, and we're going to be doing a lot more of that as we move along. But yeah, thank you very much for engaging with that on all the various different platforms, and if you haven't, it's still available. No harm, no foul. Just jump back in. You get me, people? Jump in. As you can probably tell from my voice, I haven't been well. That's partly one of the reasons why I didn't put out a pod last week. Couldn't speak. Lost my voice entirely. It's just part and parcel of being in the game. I sing in a church and I have a podcast. So the voice is pretty essential to those activities, and I wasn't able to do any of those things. We're somewhat, maybe like 30-40% right now. So I thought, let me not hold back. And plus this episode is an absolute banger. Stephanie was amazing. So yeah, definitely couldn't wait too long to put this out. And I've got some really cool interviews lined up. So yeah, if you people don't mind this sort of gravelly baritone voice, we're going to keep it pushing. We're going to keep it moving all the way to the new year. How about that? How about it? You get me? But yeah, today I'm very excited. We're talking life and kicks with a sneaker designer, Stephanie Howard. She's been at Nike, she's been at Reebok, and she was at New Balance, and she designed the 850, a very cool silhouette, very smooth silhouette. And so interesting about that silhouette, no big N on the on the outside of the shoe. That sort of thing that you associate with New Balance, that big N on the side, wasn't there. She went against the curve, she went against the grain, and yeah, that shoe has stood the test of time. And we also talk about what she's doing currently at Endstate, which is her new sneaker company. Very cool concepts over there. During the interview, we talk about her beginnings in kicks, how she landed her first job at New Balance, and essentially her working at New Balance sort of sparked that love for kicks. Stephanie did have an affinity for shoes prior, but once being immersed in the culture, in the industry, I think that really, based on the conversation we had, seemed to awake that love for kicks, and that's valid, bro. That's valid. It makes sense. And I always say, I mean, we're about connections, not collections. We're about the story. You get me? It doesn't need to be contrived. However we get there is when we get there, and everyone's story is valid. And I think it's amazing that she got the opportunity to work in an industry that she didn't really have much understanding or knowledge about prior, but once in the industry just sort of took it like a duck to water and became like a powerhouse. Like a really cool, it's a really cool story. We talk about the process of designing shoes because I think it's important for us to understand that brands like Nike and Adidas and obviously New Balance, they spend a significant amount of money and time in developing new technology, wear testing things, bringing things to market. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't, sometimes they just sit. And it's just understanding that process of pen and paper, back in the day, pen and paper, probably publisher or some kind of imaging software now, but or designing software now, but how does that process work, and how has that process evolved, and how long does it take, and what kind of investment does a business put in to a new silhouette, things of that nature. She was really, really insightful in that regard. One thing I always wanted to know about New Balance was why they use numbers versus names when it came to their shoes. And she gives us a bit of an understanding as to the reason why the business decided to take that route when it came to their naming convention as well. So very, very interested. And then we also get into Endstate, which is her new sneaker company, and the shoes that she's developed, the silhouettes and the new colorways, but also the connections she's been able to make and the brand deals that she's been able to put together in order to help popularize and blow up that brand. Very, very cool. And their plans for the future, which you guys should stick around and listen to, because it's very, very interesting. We also get into some quick fires, and she explains what kicks she would take with her if she was stranded on a desert island. An amazing guest. Absolutely lovely lady. I would love to have her back on the pod one day. And I think we're putting some things in the work to even talk to her CEO, which would be awesome, and find out his perspective and his journey in terms of Kicks, because it's completely different from Stephanie's. But we'll keep you updated in regards to that. But yeah, interesting and entertaining interview, like one I'm very, very proud of, and I hope you guys will find it interesting and entertaining, just like I did. So with all of that being said, so before we get into that, kickschronicles@gmail.com. If you ever want to get in contact, like, comment, subscribe, because you know you're meant to do that. 5-star reviews only, and I'm not taking no for an answer. And with all of that being said, I'm your boy PROZECH. This is Kicks Chronicles, and today our guest is the amazing Stephanie Howard from Endstate. Enjoy. Yes, my people. Big PROZECH back again, and you already know what it is, man. Kicks Chronicles. We have another illustrious guest, as you can see on screen right now. I have with us today. It's a momentous occasion. I'm not gonna lie. I'm feeling very, very good about myself, because I feel like we're in the presence of a little bit of greatness right now. I'm just being honest. You get me? This person has been in the shoe design game for a number of years. She's been involved in some very iconic silhouettes from some of the biggest brands out there, from your Nikes to your Reeboks, Timberland, North Face, Titleist, and responsible for the New Balance 850. And we definitely are gonna get into that. So yeah, people, welcome with me, Stephanie Howard. Stephanie Howard, what's kicking?
Hi, I'm so happy to be here. I love talking about sneakers, of course. I'm really happy to meet you. I really enjoy your content and
Thank you so much.
happy to be here.
It is an absolute pleasure to have you. I have to be honest, because shout out to Leland. Leland's he's an interesting guy, because he just like he bombarded me with a few emails, and he was like, "Have you heard of this? Have you heard of this? Have you heard of this?" And I literally clicked on an email, and I saw what was going on over at Endstate, which we'll definitely get into later. And loving the hoodie, by the way, and and I was like, I think I recognized that name from somewhere. And I started doing a little bit of digging, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. And yeah, I was like, yeah, Leland, yeah, we could definitely hook that up. Let's do something. But yeah, this is Kicks Chronicles. You're obviously massively welcome. Thank you so much for being here. We like to take it right back to the beginning. So talk to me about that first love. What was the thing that got you in love with shoes, got you in love with sneakers?
I think before sneakers, we have to go even further back to when I fell in love with design and product design.
Love that. Love
Um,
that.
I was so lucky in high school that I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do in my career, like so many people are at a young age. And I really loved art. I happened to be really good at math and science. And so all my teachers and even my parents were talking about engineering, but my love was for creating things and art. And then I had an art teacher who explained what industrial design was to me, and I had never heard of it. And that is exactly what I want to do. And so luckily was able to pursue that, went to school for it. And what I loved is that I could make things that would like really, sort of enter people's lives, right? Be
Hmm.
part of their lives, not just create art for art's sake, which is lovely. And believe me, I wish
Obviously,
everybody
yeah.
could do that. But I also love the idea that, something I created, might help somebody or, get them, really excited about themselves. And, a lot of times at Endstate, we talk about how we're boosting people's authentic selves because people wear things for self-expression, and
Hmm.
and they really like the connection to the stories behind what they're wearing. And so yes, so I had a love for design, and then once I was out of school, I was trying to figure out what type of products I would be designing. And I have to admit, I wasn't this big sneakerhead before I got into the industry. I just I was athletic, so I would buy sneakers to perform in, but I wasn't a collector of them.
Hmm.
And then I landed my very first job at New Balance. And once I was inside and saw, the inner workings of how this is done, and I got to be part of the creation of, what's a really exciting product that so many people covet. I kind of fell in love, and I stayed in love with the sneaker industry and designing for a very long time now. I can tell you how long it's been. It's been over 25 years. So I've been doing this for a long time.
Well, that's absolutely amazing, and yeah, I'm glad that you mentioned how long it's been, because I'm like, no, obviously, I'm not going to do that. But yeah, I think it's amazing the idea that design sort of caused you to sort of ask questions about sort of how can I create something that's not only beautiful but also offers purpose, has a use, and then ultimately enriches people's lives. And this is how I look at kicks, and this is how a lot of us look at sneakers, because ultimately in our minds they are pieces of art. They're expressions of design, but they're actually useful, right? They look away, they feel away, they have textures, and they have almost personalities, but they serve a massive purpose. And it's so interesting that you might be wearing your favorite pair of shoes and you'll feel more confident.
Yeah.
You'll walk with more confidence, and you'll be more assertive and stuff. So like it definitely links in. So it definitely makes a lot of sense. So that love sort of it was given birth when you got to New Balance. How did that happen? Because I can imagine there are people watching that are like, I would love to work for New Balance, especially given the last couple of years that New Balance have had. Like it's been like monumental what they've been able to do in the space. So like, how does one end up at New Balance?
Well, I guess through a little bit of luck and a little bit of effort combined, I I was actually looking in in this area, in sort of Boston in New York, because those are two cities near where I grew up. And I was kind of just talking to people who had gone to the same school that I went to. And somebody was offering me a freelance position. They're saying, "Oh, well, if you want to freelance with me, I can tell you some other names of people in the area, and maybe you can do some work for them, and they can set me up as like kind of a new kid right out of school, figuring out how to work." And then I got connected to somebody at New Balance, and he happened to go to the same school that I went to. So that was the luck part, I think, that he had already been there just a few years, and I was able to set up an interview. And of course, I had back then, all of our work was, hand done, all these marker renderings, and had a big portfolio that I brought to the meeting and showed all of my schoolwork. And when I was in school, like what we would do is we would design products. They would give us a brief, we would design these products, and then we would make full scale models of them. And they would look just like the real product. So we'd be in the wood shop creating these like amazing real life models. Now everything's in the computer. You don't have to do any of that
Mm,
anymore. But so I brought all of that, all the photos, all the images. And um, I think just timing, another luck part was they were looking for young new designer, and the team was pretty small, so even more lucky because aren't a lot of open positions that were happening during that
I can
time.
imagine.
Yeah, so I landed the job, and feel very fortunate every day. Worked with the most amazing people there. It was like a family at New Balance when I was there, and I so appreciate all the time that I spent there.
That's awesome. That's awesome. You did mention sort of growing up in and around sort of Boston and New York, so that's sort of the East Coast of America for
Mhm.
those that are keeping score. um, when you were growing up, what kind of shoes did you see on people's feet? Like, what were the images when you go back in your mind's eye? What was popular during sort of your heyday?
Yeah. Okay. When I was young, growing up, before I got to the business, I mean, certainly, like everybody knew the stories of the Jordans, right? Because they were coveted, and I think there were a few people that were, there was some violence involved in the,
Boy, yeah.
getting, the getting of the shoes, and so all those stories were well known to me. And I was into watching basketball, so like, and a huge fan of Michael Jordan, and so like all that Jordan influence was big. And I remember the Nike Hirachis and thinking those were pretty excellent. I still love that sneaker to this day.
Yeah.
So I would see all of that, but I wasn't collecting like I was. I think
Mhm.
not that wealthy, so like I was just going to the local store and getting the affordable sneakers at the time. But like I knew of those other sneakers, but that was like those are the ones I knew about, and that was probably it. Like I don't think even in my town there were a lot of people that had sort of the exciting collectibles yet. Like it was just sneakers that you wore to run in or do your sport in, and that was it.
Like what? Because you remember you were mentioning that you used to do some sports and performing. So what kind of sports did you do?
Well, I actually my big sport was dancing, so not a lot of sneakers worn in that. I actually competed in dance. Um,
Wow.
but for exercise, of course, I did a little jogging and things like that. I wasn't a
So
competitive
did
runner or
you
anything.
wait when you like did jogging, like did you obviously were you drawn to the runner? Because ultimately you would
Yeah.
create some, I mean you'd
Yes.
create a pretty iconic runner. So were you drawn to the runner as a sort of silhouette?
Yes. Yeah. That was definitely when I was buying sneakers, I was buying runners.
Cool. It's definitely a question I love to ask my guests on the podcast is about unholy grails. Now, an unholy grail, you may not have been aware of that terminology. It's essentially what I refer to as an unbranded off-brand sneaker. And these are the things that I had to go through as a young child, because in my household there was three priorities, and shoes were not one of them. It was God, school, and food. And that was in that order. So I don't know if it was a situation for you that you ever had to wear unbranded shoes or dip into what we refer to as unholy grail. Did you ever have to dabble in them dark arts?
Yes, I definitely did. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I don't know. I think when I was young, the store was called Bob's Surplus Discount Store, and
Love
that's
it.
where we got our
Love it.
sneakers. So
That's
anyone
what's
who's from
up.
my area of the woods would know that.
We love a bit of Bob's. We love a bit of Bob's. That's the fire right there. We love that, man. And to be fair, like one thing when I always ask that question, I always end it by stating that. I mean, look at you now. Look at where it's got you. Because having to wear discounted shoes, I'm saying shoes sold by the dozen, the things of that nature, it builds character, right? So if
Yes.
anything else, at the least, I'm saying you're humble. I'm saying you got a good personality, and you've gone on to achieve amazing things in the industry. So yeah, man, it definitely had a strong part to play, I'd imagine. But let's move on and let's talk about sort of your current collection, like what you like to wear nowadays. This part of the interview is called the EST of KIC. It's kind of where we talk about the sort of the oldest, the newest, the rarest, the greatest, the best
Mhm.
bits and pieces in your collection. Now, I think the best place to start is the oldest. So, what is the oldest shoe you got in your collection?
Oldest shoe in my collection. Ooh, all right. So I think the answer is it's one of my New Balances that I designed, and I think I've got some here. I think it's the AT800 or it's the 825 or it could be the 851. I can show you those. Although we're on
Oh
a podcast, so maybe I shouldn't show. So
no, but we're
these
recording it.
are all,
This is gonna
yeah,
go on YouTube. And guys,
yeah.
if you listen to this podcast and you want to see Stephanie Howard's amazing shoes, like the shoes that she's been able to have her actual hand on and design,
Yeah,
jump over to YouTube and watch the video, or
yeah,
watch it on Spotify because you can do either one, which is
yeah.
amazing.
Nice.
Show us these amazing
Yeah.
shoes, Stephanie,
All right.
please.
Okay. So yeah. So of the shoes that I designed, there's some that are older than this, but I don't have pairs of those. So the oldest one that I'm most well known for is the 850, and I have a
Mm-hmm.
pair of that, but it's not the oldest shoe here because it's one of the remade ones, right?
Oh yeah, there
And so
was
how do we know it's remade? Is because
yeah.
the original design that I did had an N, like that looked like
Mm-hmm.
that,
Mm-hmm.
and not the NB logo. And so these are reissued. So they're like oldest in terms of when I designed it,
Mm-hmm.
but not my oldest pair that I have, like terms of like when it was actually in in the world as a sneaker. So I think that means, hold on, I'll grab a couple here, and I should know the order of these. I don't 100% know the order, but I'm pretty sure that this would be the. So this is the New Balance 825. And
825.
yeah, it's not well known. Believe me, I'm like one of the few people that know it, and it's one I love that I designed. It was a lightweight sneaker, and New Balance
Mm-hmm.
was not known for lightweight sneakers at the time, so it was kind of a big deal that we were coming out with one. It followed after we created the 850. The 850 was one of those what they called stability shoes at the time because it had a medial side post. So this was for runners who
Nice.
tended to pronate, right? So this is all the running text jargon, I guess.
We like that.
And
We
so
like
we
that.
decided as a team that we should have a stability shoe, but then we should have a neutral cushioning shoe, and then we should also have a lightweight one. So when we created the lightweight one, this is the 825, and it was all about sort of taking out some materials from the bottom,
Mm-hmm.
and just kind of creating something that runners who didn't need that extra pronation device on the inside, like somebody who was a neutral runner, they
Mm-hmm.
would wear this. So I was pretty excited because I was definitely really experimenting on this one, and just kind of playing around with like the way I was using webbing and overlaying it with kind of some of the synthetic leathers, and just really trying to be unique as a designer and do something new and different. And I was
That's
pretty
very
happy
cool.
with how it came out. It had some reflective in the webbing there. This and the okay, so that was the lightweight one. The neutral one, I have to show you. This is another one where I picked it up recently, and it's a remake, but the original one I do not have, which
Okay.
is the story of my life. So at somewhere in this time when we're talking, I'm going to do a shout out to anybody who has some of these originals, who's happy to sell them. I am happy to buy them because I would like to have kept, but I was not smart enough to have done so, all
Oh
of my
wow.
old designs. So this
Okay.
is the 875, the 875.
875.
And so this is an upper pattern that I designed. I designed the sole too, but not this one. When they
Okay.
remade it, they didn't put it on the original sole. So the one I did was not all gray like this. It was white, and I think it had some black out. I think this part was in black, and there was like a little bit of green on there. Maybe the logo was green or something like that. This was the 875 cushioning. So this, and this all were like a triad, so that we covered all the different runners and all their different needs.
Very
So
no, very
those are my
very
oldest.
cool. I really really appreciate that. I have a question, and it's always
Mhm.
it's specific to New Balance as well, and obviously being that you've designed at New Balance, you probably should know what's with the numbers, man. Because sometimes I just get
Oh
confused.
yeah. No, it's funny because somebody asked me that recently, and I said, I mean, back in the day, like I remember, like we were all still trying to figure it out because I don't know who started the numbers. I wasn't there as early as that. But when I was there, we were always kind of struggling. Like, do we call this the 750 or is it the 700? And then we'll go up by fives, or will we go up by tens? And so we were all like figuring it out at the time. Like now, somebody asked me recently, I think it was on a podcast, and I said, oh, I don't know. I don't know if there's a real strategy behind it. And they said, oh, no, there definitely is. And so, like, I mean, think about it. It's been many, many years. So you would hope by now, I'm
Of
sure there's like
course,
a very
yeah.
clear strategy, but I'm not privy to it right now. I'm
Yeah,
sure
no, without,
somewhere somebody can tell you.
yeah, I'm sure. Maybe somebody will let us know in the comments
Yeah.
or via other means, obviously. But yeah, no, I've always wondered that because obviously every brand has a different naming convention in terms of how they name their silhouettes or name their designs. It's just so interesting that New Balance just decided to go straight with numbers and just keep on
Yeah.
going with numbers. Like, and I think over time, obviously, certain silhouettes have like gained their own sort of notoriety, so people are able to pick those up. But like the
Yeah.
fact that every single shoe is essentially a
It's a
number,
number.
like it can get a lot. It can get a lot. So yeah. Um, and also, I wanted to ask in terms of like the process of getting shoes. I mean, when you're designing shoes at a brand like New Balance, and they're coming to you and saying to you that they want to utilize different materials or things of that nature, the process in getting that, acquiring those materials and then designing with those materials in mind and then getting that signed off. How easy is that?
It's hard. I mean, I would like to say it's hard because it's part of what I do for work all
Hmm.
the time. And there's just a lot of challenges in going from a sketch, which is something that you're putting out, kind of in 2D flat, and then figuring out how it's going to get made in a way that, the production facility can do it in,
Hmm.
in a timely way, or it's just not too complicated. And then what the materials are that are going to sort of act in the way that you want them to. It's not as easy as one might think. It's not like there's just like this whole library just in front of you that just sends you, oh, here's your sketch, this is all that should go in it. Like, you have to go through book after book after book from different
Oh.
vendors and think about, how much stretch do I need, how much support do I need. Like, there's just a lot of things that, now that I've done it for so long, I know ahead of time what to, like, the watch outs are.
Hmm.
But I think I had to learn the hard way early on. Like, there's sometimes where, I designed it and I planned a certain material because that's the look I thought I would want. And you get it back and it feels too stiff, or it doesn't flex in
Hmm.
the right place, or, I loved the way it looked, but it couldn't stretch the right way. So there's a lot now that I do quicker that it probably would have taken me like one or two rounds
Yeah.
of prototypes to figure out back when in the early days.
And I think obviously because of that experience now, the process maybe is slightly cheaper than it probably was back in the
Yeah,
day.
probably. Yeah. True,
I
true.
can imagine.
Also,
I can imagine. But no, the very, very cool insight, because I've always wondered that, man, because ultimately so many different materials, and then there's new materials and new technologies being created. So it's like, how do you, with, I suppose obviously things are wear tested, and like that process of trying out a silhouette after sort of it's been prototyped a few times, how long does that wear testing take? How long do you sort of really sort of try it out
yeah.
for before you say, this is going to work for us?
Yeah, it depends on the sport, and it depends on if you're creating something really new or something that you've done before, right? So if you're
Hmm.
creating,
Hmm.
so in the industry, I'll just so like industry standard is it takes a year and a half from design to get like onto store shelves for
Mm.
sneakers. Now, if you're doing lifestyle shoes where you're not creating a brand new technology on like the sole, um, you can go quicker. Like at Endstate, we're very, very quick on our releases. Those are more lifestyle shoes, right? So, but
Hmm.
as we go more and as we move into some performance side, then we spend a little bit more time. We have a wear testing plan in place because we're going to create something, like a new technology, if you will, for somebody to use that they want to perform in. And then to give you even, I guess, a there's two ways of looking at it, right? So there's the inline shoes, meaning you're using a technology that's already been wear
Hmm.
tested and used before. Say, on this one, like, okay, so there's foam in the sole and there's a rubber outsole and all the technology has been used before. Now you're just tweaking a few parts to it and the geometries. That's not a big change to what's out there. Then that tends to be, like I said, a year and a half for most companies to get
Hmm.
that out. But if it's a new technology and you're like, I'm going to try a brand new foam, and so we have to like make sure that the factory can, create that same durometer and flexibility, and it's going to have the durability that you want for as long as you need it to, and you're creating it from scratch, or some other new geometry that's really going to make a difference, that can take up to like 3, even 5 years. I mean, some Nike
Wow.
technologies take, have taken 10 years that I know of. So it can take a long time when you're inventing something completely from scratch. That's just not like the factory's not used to doing it. They have to learn a whole new way. They have to buy new machines. You have to try it 10 different ways before you figure out the way that it really works and can be manufactured. And, an athlete can perform in it over and over again. Like that can take like literally 3 to 10 years for a lot of new technologies to come out.
Man, no, thank you very much for the insight, man. Do you know what I mean? Now you're saying it, it's actually, I mean, it's a huge investment, right? It's a
Oh,
huge investment. It's
yeah.
an
That's why not
absolutely huge
everybody goes and
investment.
makes sneakers.
No,
Yeah.
I get it. I get it. And also, I mean, that's probably the reason why a lot of brands kind of stick to their retro
Mm.
lines, because they know they're tried and tested. They know that they're gonna sell. If they start branching out into new areas and new technologies, there's the whole thing of, well, we've got this massive investment. Is it gonna work? I mean, obviously, the upside is it could be like an Adidas with Boost. It could be like everyone starts using it, or it could just be like one of the multiple things that Nike have done that have not caught on eventually. Like you just never know, sort of thing. And after that, a
Yeah.
level of investment, obviously, it can be a little tough to take, man. I can imagine.
Yeah.
But let's swing this around and let's find out what's the newest shoe you've got in your collection.
The newest shoe. Well, I wish I could show you the newest because I'm really excited about it,
Ah,
but it's
okay, I
not
can
launched
imagine.
yet. So you have to wait on that one.
Yeah,
So
we will
let's
definitely
see.
wait on that.
The newest shoe for me that I'm wearing, it's not, I'm just, the reason I'm thinking through this is, so I guess I'm showing you shoes I'm designing versus having gotten, right? Or am
Either,
I,
either or,
like, so
either
the new,
or.
like the newest shoe that I received. Yeah, how about that? I'll do this. The newest shoe that I received, that I purchased, is an old shoe. So this
Okay,
is a New Balance trail shoe that I designed. So that's really new for me.
that's
But I
very
designed
cool.
that way back in the 90s. But for like Endstate, the shoes that I like to wear the most, I have a couple pairs here, are a couple shoes that I designed that use a
Ah,
knitting
bananas,
technology. Yeah.
red bandana.
Yeah, the red bandana, which I can talk about. And this was our very first one, Drop Zero, which was, something that I was really excited to launch because I launched a brand and a sneaker at the same time. And then the red bandana was designed, it's 100% of the proceeds go to charity. And it's designed around a hero story who um, had rescued many people during the attacks on the World Trade Center on 9/11 in the US. And his story came out because he had been wearing a red bandana to prevent smoke inhalation around his face while he was helping all these people. And so he became known as the man in the red bandana when people all
Amazing,
their survivor stories. And so
amazing.
we worked with his mom, who has a charitable trust in his name, and created a sneaker to tell the story. So I
That's an
love wearing
awesome,
these, and
awesome.
people always ask me questions about it when I wear it, so I can tell the stories. I think that's why I like
No,
it so
it's a very cool shoe. Um, does anybody ever ask you if you? I mean, I know it's America, right? So you've got the Bloods and the Crips. Does anybody ever ask you if you're affiliated when you're
much.
walking
I
around
think
in those shoes?
just my general age, probably. makes them question whether they should ask that to me.
It's fair enough. It's fair enough. It's fair enough. No, the red bandana kicks. I saw them on your website, and I
Yeah.
was like, no, there's a
Oh
very
yeah.
very cool, amazing story behind it.
Yeah.
But let's talk a little bit
Mhm.
about Endstate as well, because ultimately, Endstate are a new company that you started very
Mhm.
recently with Bennett, and you're the COO, he's the CEO, and it's bringing sort of technology into Kicks. So talk to me about Endstate.
Yeah.
So nice to see you. Sorry to interrupt the pod. I'll be literally 30 seconds. I just wanted to say thank you for being here. And also, if you enjoy the pod, make sure to like, comment, subscribe. It really does help. Also, if you're listening on an audio platform, feel free to give us a review, whether it be positive or negative. Just leave a review. We really appreciate it. Also, feel free to listen to our old episodes. And if you ever want to get in contact, if you want to let me know what you're thinking, feeling, or whatever, holler at me. My name is PROZECH. PROZECH on all social media: Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. I'm enjoying TikTok at the moment, so feel free to holler at me. I will always holler back. And with all that being said, I'll let you get back to the pod. Toodles.
Happy to. Yes, so we are just a couple years old as a brand, and we're creating products like none you've seen before. Each product is exceptionally designed and made while also unlocking an array of experiences. So, what I mean by experiences is you might be able to meet your favorite athlete or music artist in person. You might get VIP access to events or concerts, earn exclusive access to another drop in the future, and so many more things. So like all these perks that we're building into the products we can be very, very creative and innovative with them. And so each product is embedded with our proprietary technology that authenticates it, right? So, in sneakers, it's really helpful to have an
Of course.
authentic product. And then it also acts like a ticket to the exclusive events. But it also records the history of where those sneakers have been and maybe who they've met. And so there's something really exciting about products gaining
Wow.
deeper meaning over time, right? Instead of getting, sort of losing value over time, these might be gaining deeper meaning over time because of the experiences that they're sort of capturing, or maybe the loyalty points that they're collecting. Because we're working with some brands right now that we've done some collaborations with, that it's part of their loyalty program when something has the Endstate chip in it, that that they're unlocking and earning points every time it's scanned, at an event or at their store. And
Very cool.
yeah,
So
yeah,
because I use a certain credit card. I'm not gonna say what it is because they're not sponsoring the show. So while we're giving it to them, but but I love the idea. And in the UK, we do a lot of things similar to that, where it's like you buy something and you get a bit more for your money. Like you get a point, or you get these bonus bits and pieces, and it's like, oh, that makes your money stretch. It makes you think about, you're being a little bit more conscious with the money that you're spending, and ultimately with
yeah,
the shoes that you're buying in this case. So that
yeah.
is very, very cool. And the fact that they unlock experiences,
Hmm. Yeah.
that's pretty
I
cool.
mean, yeah, we're really excited about what we've done so far and what our future plans are with some of the collaborations we have coming in the future. Um, for example, in the U.S., we worked with a U.S. Football, not European football, but U.S. football
America
star.
football.
Exactly, American football. And so, every time he achieved certain milestones in the games that he was playing, people would get perks. And
Wow.
so, like, they would get, like, if he had an amazing catch, they'd get free food. If he reached a certain amount of yards that he had received, then they got a limited edition football card. And then the biggest event of all was right before the Super Bowl, and his team happened to make it all the way to the Super Bowl. Everybody who bought his sneakers got to meet him in person
That's
at an event, and he took
crazy.
photos with them and he signed things for them, and It was great. And
Who's
so like
what
one
was
sneaker unlocked all of that.
who's the guy?
So his name is Devonte Smith, and he's a wide
Oh,
receiver on the
the
Philadelphia
Eagles.
Eagles. So yeah, you were
The
talking about
Eagles.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
yeah,
they went all the way, right?
yeah. Well, they went all the way to the Super Bowl. They didn't win the Super
Yeah.
Bowl.
But they
Yeah,
went a couple of times. I remember because
yeah.
that was it might have been the year before that they'd gone, and Kevin Hart was super drunk and tried to get
Oh,
on the podium. I don't know if you heard about. Oh, but he's from
okay.
Philadelphia, and I remember hearing the story
Uh,
about him trying to get on the podium, thinking that, well, I'm Mr.
uh,
Philadelphia, they're going to let me on the podium, and they didn't let him on the podium. Funnily enough,
there
so
you
it
go.
didn't go the way he thought it
Didn't
was
work
going to
out.
go. But he got a funny story out of it, which is also a benefit to him. But that's very very cool. As I said, I think the idea of having technology in your shoes that gives you more, because ultimately as you alluded to, these are already well made shoes. They're shoes that are gonna sort of they're gonna do everything you want them to do in terms of just being a great pair of shoes, but they're giving you more. And it's sometimes, and the thing is, like, I'm not the most active person. I need to increase my activity. But if I had a pair of shoes that that an American football player was wearing, and every time he did 1,000 yards or got a catch, I got something, yeah, that might encourage me to go and do some stuff as well. That's very cool.
Yeah,
So yeah,
yeah, I
we
like
like that.
that.
We like that. We like that. We like that. Okay, talk to me.
Nice.
What are in your mind the greatest pair of shoes you own?
Oh, this one's a loaded question because am I
Super
supposed
loaded.
to answer? Am I
Do you
supposed
go?
to
Do you
answer
go
something
with?
I designed? Does that look good or bad if I do
Oh, it looks good to me. If literally,
it?
Stephanie, if the shoe was on the other
Yeah.
foot, mate, I'm drawing. I'm grabbing all of
Yeah.
mine out.
So this is personal to me. I I actually really do love the most the Drop Zero, the very first sneaker that we
Oh yeah.
designed as a company. And that's because I mean, I think it's a lot of things. Like I was launching something, Bennett and my business partner and I, we were launching together this something from scratch. And I'd never in my career gotten to do something completely from scratch. I created the design of the logo of the brand, right? We created the name of the brand. We created like what is the first look going to be, and so we had to think about it and the look we wanted to make. We were like playing across digital and physical worlds, and so like we split the design in half, and then we were thinking about how technology, when done right, will kind of knit the world together. And so even though it kind of looks like just camo, digital camouflage, it's an actual world map that we have here. And then
Really?
when the two shoes are put together, this was made in the USA. When both shoes, I don't have the other one here in front of me, but like when the two shoes are put together, this is actually a map across the toes that you can see when you look down. That's the United States because that's where it was made. And so the left and the right shoe are different. And so I felt like there was just so many levels of depth that I was able to put into this design because it was a new company, because we were creating our own story,
Mhm.
and I got to pull all of that into what the visual would look like. I'm really proud of it. And we made it super limited. It's actually, we got lucky. I don't know if it's lucky or we did the things right. Like we sold out right away and we weren't even like advertising. Like we just had to get the word out to, kind of people on, Instagram and Twitter, like this is happening. And, just, yeah, I think that one's my favorite for all of those reasons.
No, that completely makes sense. I think being able to create something, and not only create a shoe but create a company to
Mm,
commemorate that fact, considering your life's work and being involved in the sneaker industry as long as you've been, being involved in these some very iconic silhouettes, being able to create your own. I mean, with your own design brief, with your own sort of like you can set the parameters and you can. I'm saying like you can play how you want to play, and it's very very cool. It's very cool. Did you find that process, considering obviously designers normally will have certain constraints that maybe help or hinder that process? Did you find it being sort of your baby? Did you find that to be liberating, or did you find that to be a little bit of a mind meld of like, oh, what am I gonna do, sort of thing?
I feel it was both, right? Like when I first started sketching, I think I was like slow to come up with ideas because I was like, what should this be? Like it could be anything. And I had this idea, I want to put these, digital and physical together. Like what does that kind of connection look like? And um but then once I got into it, it was like the opposite of being, constrained. I really felt like, wow, the gates have never been so open for me
Amazing.
to try new things. And there was nobody, there wasn't a marketing or a salesperson to say, well, I don't know if that's going to work. That asymmetry might not work in my area, where I'm selling these. And like, I didn't have to deal with any of that. They're like,
Oh
hey, this is
man,
what we're doing. It was definitely fun.
that's very very cool. That's very cool. All right, let's switch gears a little bit. If you're running out the house, you're
Mhm.
not thinking about how you look. Maybe you're going out to the shops. You're gonna get a pint of milk, or I don't know whether you don't use pints over there. It's a different system. But anyway,
Yeah.
you're just gonna get something really really quickly. You're not thinking about how you look. You're just grabbing the first pair of shoes that are there. What are those pair of shoes?
Believe it or not, it is actually the red bandana sneakers, because I have two pairs. I have like a nicer pair that I keep for, when I'm going out, and then I have one that I've like really, just kind of put through the ringer. And
We like it.
so yeah, so I actually, because they're so comfortable, that knitted upper, it's like stretchy, and I don't have to untie them. I just slide them right on, and so
I
it's
like
like
that.
it's really easy. Yeah.
Yeah, that red bandana's a vibe because I don't know if you know one of my aliases is the Comfort King. I'm a big fan of comfortable shoes, and the whole idea of a sock knit upper with
Mhm.
a sort of a nice sort of pliable midsole. Yeah, that's me all day, every day. So
Yeah, you
yeah, I
gotta try
like
them.
that. I like that. I like that. I'm gonna try and get involved in the red bandanas if I can. Will they
Nice.
are they available, or will they ever come back
I think
if
there's
they're
a
not?
few sizes left. There's definitely a bunch of sizes that sold out. So we'd have to check for you and see
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Look,
what's your size.
we'll have a little look. I think I'm a US 13, so that usually sells out quite quickly.
I'll have to look. Yeah, I have. Let me go and look on. I'll check and let you know.
No problem at all, man. But that's cool. That's cool. This is a very bad question I'm about to ask you. I'm so sorry in advance. But if your house was burning down and you can only grab one, I'm so sorry. I can see it in your face already.
Only
You can
grab one pair of
you can
shoes.
only grab one, only one, and that's how you're gonna restart your life with that one pair of shoes. What is that pair of shoes?
Uh, yeah, that's such a good one. I feel like I'm repeating myself. I guess it's the drop zeros that I just told you were my
Oh
favorite,
yeah.
right? And it's
Okay.
this colorway because we did three colorways, and this colorway is called the tungsten one, and this one was extremely limited. So there's very few pairs of this one out in the world, and so that colorway is the one. So not just the drop zeros, but the tungsten colorway.
Tungsten drop zeros. We got
Yeah,
that. We got
yeah,
that. We got that. That's all good.
yeah.
That's all good. Okay. So we've spoken about Endstate. We've spoken about sort of some of the shoes that you've been involved with. Sort of future plans. What are you obviously this is your company. So
Hmm.
the idea is obviously you're going to continue to grow with the company, you're going to continue to do things. But does this mean that you are no longer in the industry? If one of the if one of the other brands came along and wanted to do some form of collaboration, would you be
Oh,
open to it? Talk to
oh
me.
yeah. Yeah, we collaborate with brands. Like we're already doing some, and so there's stuff coming that you'll see. But we
Amazing.
are, so you can be. so when you talk about our future, ultimately it is to continue with collaborating with amazing artists, entertainers. They could be, sort of YouTube entertainers, if you will. They could be music artists, which we definitely have one coming out real soon. That's a music artist, and we're doing something. We're doing something with a museum in the spring with
Come
a
on.
special collection and exhibit. Like we have so many things planned. We're working globally with some designers in countries that you probably wouldn't typically think that we'd be working in. So there is a lot planned. We have every quarter, every single month of next year planned out. And what we're doing is, we really think this technology is a game changer. And we think it's a game changer, not just for Endstate, but for the brands or the people that we're collaborating with,
Mm-hmm.
because it is basically it's unlocking their inner circle to their biggest fans, right? So if I'm working with a music artist and their sneakers coming out soon, their biggest fans not only get an amazing limited edition sneaker, but they get maybe backstage pass to one of their shows, or they get to meet them in person, or they get to come to the music release party for their next single. And so many different things that could be. We're creating connection. Like that's what ultimately we're doing, is we're like powering these connections. And what people need in this world, I think, is that, right? They don't just need more products and stuff. They need products that have deep meaning for them, right? So they're going to curate. We think that people will be curating what they buy and only buying things that are more meaningful. And so we think that we're doing that for customers who buy the sneakers, and then we're connecting them to who they're a huge fan of and who they're passionate about. So we're we believe that this is the future of product, really. Like what there's no reason not to be creating more and more value in products, and it sort of just puts them at a whole new level.
Do you ever think about the possibility that some of the bigger brands in the space might see what you guys are doing and ultimately might think we want a little bit, they're growing, we can see what they're doing, it seems like it's working really well, and might start trying to get into that space? Do you ever consider that? And what do you think about the possibility of that potentially happening? And have you put any things in place to protect what you've got going on over at Endstate?
Yeah, I mean, some of what we're doing is proprietary, so we have some protection over that. But we also know that it's about telling our story the right way and growing with our new audience. There's room for other brands, right? So yes, if a big brand does the same thing that we're doing, yes, they can do something, relatively similar, possibly. We have some proprietary technology involved here, but the reason for a new brand to exist is because people are going to feel that there's a connection that we're making for them that maybe the sort of legacy brands haven't done before. Maybe they're a little bit later to this. And there's so many artists and athletes and musicians and you name it that have passionate fan bases that I think there's room for more than just the big few brands that exist. There's definitely space for us.
Yeah, without a shadow of a doubt. And I completely agree. Are you ever coming over to the UK?
I don't have a current trip planned. Certainly I've loved spending time there in my past, so I do hope to plan a trip soon. Let me think. Or you're talking, yeah. So I think product wise, it's always available. Like we ship internationally, so anybody in the UK, yeah. But collaboration wise, I think that is your question should be answered, and my answer is yes. We're absolutely interested in working with and doing some collaborations in the UK,
Amazing.
and other countries in Europe. I don't have one specifically lined up for early next year, but we're pulling some things together in the sort of mid to late next year, and I would say that certainly there's a few ideas we have around doing something in Europe for sure.
Watch this space, people. Watch this space. But yeah, this has been absolutely amazing. It's been an absolute treat. I just got a couple of very weird and wonderful questions for you, Stephanie.
I love it.
You've been awesome. You've been awesome. I want to ask you, if you were stranded on a desert island and you don't know how you got there, but you had 2 pairs of shoes with you, right? What 2 pairs of shoes would you have with you and why? I kind of think I know where you're going with this. This question is called.
Well, now I should get more creative. I feel like I've already given you the same
But
shoes
you,
over and over.
but
So let me
yeah,
think.
but you have to tell me why, and there has to be a good reason. There has to be a good. We need to show you're working on this,
Okay.
Stephanie. So we need to show you're working.
Okay. If I was stranded and I had 2 pairs with me, I have to tell you kind of why I ended up there with them, or just...
Not necessarily why you ended up wearing with them, but just why
Okay.
you have those shoes
Why I have
specifically.
them. All right. Okay. Well, I think we probably have to go with the 850, right? Like, I mean,
Okay, that makes sense.
this is where people know me. So maybe I'm on this island and I run into some, I don't know, native residents of the island. I'm trying to explain my background. I gotta be like, you know what? I am known for this. so that would be one I'd have with me, the New Balance 850.
Before
yeah.
you give me the second shoe, it's something I was meaning to ask you and I forgot to ask you. The 850. Where's the big end? No big end. What's happening?
Oh, yeah, we didn't talk about that. Yeah, okay. So, yeah, I was young. I was the youngest person on the team at the time. We had a pretty small team. And I was sketching for, what I had to do was, there was something called, I believe it was the 750 that became the 850. I should know. But yeah, I think so. And so that existed. It had an N on the side, but it was kind of fresh and new. Brian Keating, who was a designer that I worked with and actually was the designer that was at New Balance that I knew from school originally.
Amazing.
So he was there. He had designed the previous one that I was designing what they called sort of the next update to. And so I was inspired that he went a little bit in a fresh direction. But I was sketching and I was feeling really sort of bound by like the big N on the middle and trying to design around it. So I just played with sketching really, really freely, right? And so it's nice to think, I don't know if you've done any sketching in your life, but when you think somebody's going to see your sketch, sometimes you tighten up and you don't do like your best work. So in this case, I was like, I'm just going to draw and draw and draw. So nobody's going to see these. I'm going to throw these out. But when I started to do that, I realized that, I had some things that I liked, but they didn't have the big N on them. And so I was like, okay, well, what if we already had a logo, that little flying NB logo that existed in the company. We just weren't putting it on men's shoes at all.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of saved for apparel and for women's shoes. And so I said, okay, but what if we just made it a flying N? We just took the NB off of it, had the flying N, and I can make it small and I could move it elsewhere on the shoe. And that's when I talked to my manager, Edith Hireman, who was there. And she'd been there long enough to go, okay, I think we could do this, but you have to talk to the owner of the company, right? Like this is,
Wow.
the owner of New Balance, Jim Davis. And you have to convince him that that this isn't, convince him that this is an evolution, right? I'm not, I'm not saying no ends on the shoe. I'm just saying, let's evolve the end so that we can work it into, really fresh designs. And he was just, he's a really independent minded, thinker. He's an amazing person. I sat down with him as I guess I was probably like 22 or 23 years old at the time. And I was probably 22. And I sat down and just said, here's a presentation of how other companies' logos have evolved over time. This is what I think we can do with the N logo. He was like, all right, give it a try. And so I
love that.
I was able to mix it up. And then we did that on a few designs after that. That's what I was telling you, like one of my favorites was this trail shoe that I just got in the mail because I found somebody who had an old pair. And so, we had it on the
With
side there too. And you could do really,
cool.
really unique things with the upper. Yeah. So it was
awesome.
A big change.
And that's, I mean, everybody listening, we are definitely going to get back to Desert Island Kicks. It's just obviously, understanding that when you've got a brand that is almost locked into a particular style in terms of their upper, right? And just having, whether it be a swoosh, whether it be three stripes, whether it be a big N on the side, these are things that people normally would look to as a consumer. These are things that people would look to. And then for as a designer, these are things that you want to be an issue because ultimately it potentially makes it more identifiable, easy to know that this is a shoe that is from the brand that you want it to be from, and it looks the way you want it to look. So when you come out of that, you take a massive chance. And I think it
Yeah.
is really, really cool. I think like New Balance took taking a chance on these things, being it being quite a while ago, I think it was very, very cool. I think it was definitely um a uh, uh, a gamble that paid off because like you were saying, having nuances in your branding, I think adds to the story of a silhouette, adds to the story of like the fact that we know about the 850, we know about some of these shoes because they're slightly different. It's the
Yeah.
one that's slightly different, and that adds to the story, adds to the notoriety of the shoe. It's another wrinkle in the story overall of the tapestry of New Balance, which is awesome. So yeah, very, very cool overall. I needed to ask that question because I can hear a million people just saying to me, ask about the big N. Why is there no big N? And we've asked about the big N. Now we're going back to Desert Island Kicks. What's the second pair of shoes?
What is the second pair of shoes? Here, I'll throw something new in the mix here.
Come on.
Nike Rift, because they have the split toe, right? So you're like on a desert island, you're like running around. I
I
love
like
those
it.
Nike Rifts.
Do you know what? Very briefly, right? Firstly, like obviously the 850 is an absolute banger, so that's a no brainer, right? But the riffs, that those riffs, they're close to my heart,
Yeah, me
very
too.
close to my heart. I love
Nice.
that shoe.
Ah,
When I was in college, basically I was like the first year I was in college because you're kind of from near New York. I basically looked like a broke Brooklyn rapper, right? Baggy everything, just like baggy, right? And then in my second year in college, I was like, you know what, man, I need to switch it up. I need to change. I need to get a little bit more grown with it, a little bit more European with it, right? I'm not even from America, man, but I was listening to a lot of hip hop at the time. I needed to switch it up, right? And I said, you know, I'm gonna go straight jeans, button up shirts. I'm gonna get a nice Mac. You know what I'm saying, but I wanted a nice pair of shoes to sort of like be the icing on the cake, and I landed on a pair of riffs. And
nice.
do you know what I thought? You know what? I'm gonna go with the riffs. Kind of a dumb decision in a way because it rained so much over in the UK. So having your feet kind of exposes a bit
Wet
of a
all the
risk.
time.
Yeah, it's a bit of a risk, but it was an amazing conversation starter. An amazing conversation starter. So
True.
and it turned that second year of college around, my friend. So yeah, it definitely was a shoe that got a lot of attention. So why is the riff so important to you?
You know, I love many things about it. I love how much it pushed the boundaries. I'm a big,
Yeah.
if it's innovation, I'm interested. I don't always love it, but I'm interested. And then um when that came out, I was just kind of, my mind was blown. I was a young designer, and nobody had pushed the limits like that one had. And then I knew the story behind it because I knew some people that had worked on the project. And
Mm,
if the story I was told is correct, it was had to be done like, sort of like they talk, in these companies like skunk works, like somebody at the top, I guess, did not like when they saw that presented, and they sort of axed the project. And some people in the
wow.
lower ranks were like, hey, we got to make this. This is really cool. We got to do it. And they went ahead and made it. And then it actually made it all the way to market. So that's that's the story I've heard about it with some people that I
That
know
is
that supposedly worked on it. So I like the like irreverence about it, but it
yeah,
also,
it's
like, it
cool.
was born from insights. Like, it was all they studied runners running on, in that certain area where all the marathon runners were coming out of, and Africa, and they were running a certain way and training a certain way. And I think being barefoot was part of that. And so they wanted to kind of they used that as inspiration for a whole different way of designing a shoe. So it was designed for performance. It looked completely radical. Like it was irreverent in the way it was made. Like there's just so many parts about it that I loved. And, and I think it just affected me as a designer because I was young and I was like, oh, wait a minute, we could push things like way more than I thought we could push things. And so I think it was just an inspiration.
And I think there's no Vibram Five Fingers and that whole scene, that barefoot sort of feel of the earth scene without the riff. I don't think that happens. I don't think that happens. So yeah, shout out to the riff. It does not get the love nor the respect it deserves.
I'm always surprised people don't talk about it more than they do.
Like, come on. I think actually Nike were toying with the idea. They may potentially have done it, but I think they were toying with the idea at least this year of bringing them back. But I'm not sure if they actually did or not. I think they possibly did. May have been a women's only drop that they did, but I'll have a look into that and try and remember. But we're gonna sort of wing our way to the end of this. And once again, you've been amazing. We're gonna do some quick fires. Right, we're gonna do some quick fires. These we're gonna run through. Nothing for you to be scared of. Nothing for you to worry about. Just be honest. Just be open and honest. And shoot from the hip. No dilly dallying. All right.
I'm gonna go.
We're gonna go in 3, 2, 1. So we always start with this one. It's massive. Nike or Adidas?
Wait, say that again.
Nike or Adidas? Nike or Adidas?
Okay. Yeah, no, that's what I thought you were saying. I worked at Nike, loved it, so I'm going Nike.
Respectfully, New Balance or Nike?
Oh, ouch. I worked at both. I'll go New Balance.
I love that. Quick question. Can you wear Nike and Adidas together at the same time? Yes or no?
Oh, anybody can wear whatever they want. Yes, you can do it.
She's one of them. Okay. Move on. Do you have a Jordan number? If so, which silhouette do you love the most?
I'm not a collector, but I always think the original is the original, so I go with the very first one.
I love that. YouTube, Instagram, or TikTok?
Instagram.
Sneakers, kicks, or Creps?
Oh, Kicks.
We like that. Spotify or Apple?
Oh, I think I'm going to go against convention here. Like I use Apple more than Spotify, but I think probably Spotify's better. Just like that's just how it worked out.
Yeah, for real. I know that. Talk to me. Vans or Converse?
Ooh, I'm a Vans fan. Yeah.
Laces or slip-ons?
Slip on with laces, like my
like
my red bandana.
Like the zero.
I can slip it up. It's got laces.
But it's got laces. No, I respect that. Yeah, that's just, it's a laces with a slip-on. You broke in the system. I need to change the question. Okay.
Sorry.
Would you, if your shoes had laces, do you tend to change your laces or do you just leave them as they are?
I tend to leave them as they are.
We like that. Retro or innovation?
Ooh, innovation.
Love it. Flip-flops or sliders?
Sliders.
Socks or barefoot?
Socks.
Comfort or style? Fresh and clean or beaten and battered?
Fresh and clean.
How do you wash your shoes?
Oh, well, recently with those red bandanas, I was telling you about that. I wear a lot. I use the Jason Mark, soap kit, and the toothbrush and the water and the
That's a good answer. That's a good answer.
It worked really well.
Fantastic. Shout out to them, man. There,
Yeah, yeah.
lows, mids, or highs.
Oh gosh, I like all. Lately I've been wearing a lot of mids, and I know that a lot of people don't like mids.
It's
But
true. It's true. It's true. Somebody's got to love them.
yeah,
And the last question in this area is triple blacks or white on whites.
um, triple blacks. So,
We love that. We love that. It's a little bit of demon time there.
I'm getting a visitors here.
You. I was thinking. Does my daughter have a mic? I'm hearing some
Yeah,
little noises.
yeah. No, it's my
Oh, that's very
my
cool.
son.
What's your cat's name?
His name is Blue.
Blue. We like
The
that,
color
man. We've
blue.
got just the color blue, and we've got another feature on the podcast as well. Has he designed any shoes as well,
No,
or
no,
was he the
yeah.
inspiration?
He's my daughter's cat, and he's being nice to me right now, but usually he's not that nice.
Ah,
He tends to be on
ah,
my bad side most of the time.
that's cool, man. See, the podcast bringing people together. We love it, man.
Yeah,
We love it. He's
exactly. I
obviously
guess
enjoying what we're
he
talking
likes the
about. So
vibe.
yeah, he's liking the vibes right now. Okay, I wanted to
See,
ask
he's
you
already
about.
leaving.
He's gone.
That was it. He
He's
liked
like,
the vibe for like 5 seconds.
gone. I wanted to ask you about the terminology sneakerhead. I don't know whether it's something that you hear of or is super prevalent over in
Yeah.
sort of in the circles that you run in, because obviously you're a designer. So do you think about things in those terms? But for us in the sort of in the community, some people view the term as like a real term of community. It brings people together. Some people look at it as a way of sort of excluding certain people from being able to enter in. So, I mean, in your opinion, what does the term sneakerhead mean to you?
Yeah. Yeah. So in my opinion, we do use it a lot in the US, so it's a very common word. And in my opinion, like what I love about sneakers is that people wear them for self-expression. And so and I think you even were talking about this earlier, like it's kind of like a part art, part science, some technology, it has some story that somebody's found an affiliation to. And so it doesn't have to be like the most coveted, limited, collectible item that costs a lot of money for you to wear as self-expression. Like you were just talking about the riffs, right? You put riffs on and people had a conversation about them. And so
Definitely.
that's what I love about sneakers is it's like these items that we really covet. And I don't think everybody's coveting them because they were like hard to get and they cost a lot. Like I think there's so much design out there and so much creativity and so many stories being told and these little nuances that you have to kind of discover on a lot of these shoes. I think that, that it's really, it should be this inclusive opportunity for people to self-express and and sort of tell a story around why that was the one that they chose, right? Because we have so many choices that we get to make and everybody's uniquely kind of telling their own story through what they're wearing.
Absolutely. And that's partly why I have the podcast, because I think everyone's story is completely valid and I just want to hear them all.
I love that. I love it.
Yeah,
It's true. You learn something from every single
yeah,
person out there. Somebody who could know
100%.
nothing about sneakers could teach me something about sneakers today.
This is it. I mean, that's how that could lead to massive innovation. But
Yeah.
with that being said, I mean, would you class yourself as a sneakerhead?
It's funny because if I use the way I just defined it now, then yes, I think about them all the time. I didn't used to be a collector, but now I'm trying to get my old ones back. So I am now a collector. I'm buying them online from other people who have like some, older version of something. So I think I am, but if somebody has a very limited version of sneakerhead, meaning like you've collected a whole bunch of Jordans that, people are trying to get and, you can't get, then that's not me because I've never been doing that. But I think sneakerhead should be a much more broad term that talks about people who really get excited about sneakers because they tell really interesting stories and they help them tell a story about why they like them.
Absolutely, and based on how you defined it, I mean, I mean, if it was about how many Jordan 1s or how many Jordans you had, I don't think I'd be a sneakerhead either. Like, I think it's all about the passion. It's all about the enjoyment. It's just a positive, enriching thing, and we love it. And we have to thank you for your contributions to the game, man. It's really, it's super important that we give people their flowers. Sometimes you don't get the opportunity, and whenever I've got somebody on the podcast that's given so much to the industry, I definitely want to just let you know that we appreciate what you've done, and it's awesome to have you, man. So yeah, people, this has been Kicks Chronicles. We've been with Stephanie Howard. She's been absolutely amazing. Stephanie, before we go, once again, I mean, we've mentioned Endstate a few times. Please let the people know how they can get in contact with you, how they can support what you got going on over at Endstate.
Yeah, because you want to be here. We're having a new drop coming out pretty soon, and quite a few that are kind of active at the moment. So we are best found on socials. It's just at Endstate, ENDSTATE. And our website is endstate.io. So happy to have conversations there. I'm where you can see some of my old work. I'm at Stephanie.Endstate on Instagram.
Guys, make sure to go light up Stephanie on Instagram and the guys over at Endstate as well. Let your presence be known. It's been absolutely amazing having you. It's been an absolute pleasure. Super pleasant.
The pleasure was mine. It was so fun. I love your questions.
I really appreciate it. Thank you so much, man. It's really, really awesome having you. So, guys, this has been another episode of Kicks Chronicles with me, your boy PROZECH, and we had the amazing Stephanie Howard in from Endstate. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and do all of those great things. Leave a review. 5-star is always preferable. People, keep on supporting us, and we'll keep on coming with the good content. You get me? We can keep on reaching out. I think Stephanie might have a few friends in the industry. I'm gonna hit her up after this.
Yeah, I do. I might know a few people.
Awesome. So yeah, with all of that being said, I've been your boy PROZECH. This is Kicks Chronicles, and until the next time I see you, man, stay blessed. Thank you for listening to this episode of Kicks Chronicles. Please make sure to like, comment, subscribe, share, rate, review, and all that good stuff. And remember, full video version is available on YouTube, audio versions available on Spotify and Apple Podcasts.